Hey everyone, this is the Doctor of Self-Worth. I'm so happy that I got Payman, Lorenzo Payman again with me. How are you?
Thank you, brother. I'm doing wonderful. It's always a pleasure, a blast, and honor talking to you. Love your passion, your vision, and everything you do. Thank you for
Thanks
having
for
me.
that. Thanks for that. We jump on live. The reason we do this is because I wanted you to see how you could have your message out one, how you could launch a podcast, which I did, as you guys know. But Payman is the expert in that field. How you can monetize that, and also with monetization, how you can probably convert it into paid clients. Well, where should we even start with this? Help me. How do we launch a podcast fast?
Great question. First of all, let me just briefly give my background. So I'm a podcaster. I've started my podcast in October of 2020, and that was one of the single biggest, most transformational decisions of my life, at least in terms of business, on the last 10 years. And since then, I reached over 310, almost 320 episodes. And yeah, now I'm a four-time number one financial best-selling author thanks to my podcast. Made incredible connections, friendships around the world, and changed my life in every aspect. But most importantly, beyond the financial, it changed my life because I used to be extremely shy. And podcasting allowed me to overcome my shyness. I used to be, hi, my name is Payman. Very low self-confidence, very shy. I couldn't get on a camera because I was very self-conscious because I have a big nose. I don't have hair. So I was even more shy, even more of a, low self-confidence. But then I realized it's not about me. It's about the message I have, the wisdom that I learned and along the way, the gifts that I accumulated, the experience. So this is why we are here to share that. So, and this changed my life. And how do you start a podcast? Honestly, when I started, I didn't know it. I just did it. I'm not a techie. So I'm a big fan of the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. That's one of my principles. I'm not a techie. I still don't do, after 3 years and 300 episodes, I do very little editing. I keep it as natural, raw, authentic as possible. But the good news is you don't need to be a techie. You don't need to spend a lot of time, a lot of money to start a podcast. And this is one of the things that I teach. Not only teach you how to launch a podcast in 3 weeks, 30 minutes a day, but also once you've launched your podcast within 30 days to monetize it, even if you have no existing audience. The traditional way to monetize a podcast or YouTube channel is by build a massive audience and then make your money through ad spend, downloads, and views. That is good, and that applies mostly to people who have existing massive audiences, or people who are already celebrities, or people already renowned world-class experts in the field. When I started, I was none of that, and I was in a bad spot financially, so I needed to make money right away. And I stumbled upon a way that allowed me to monetize my podcast right away. As soon as I discovered that approach, I was able to get 6 clients, high-ticket client in one weekend, and then 60 clients in the next 10 months. And I took 6 months off. I traveled, so I took a break of 6 months. So in the last 18 months, I was able to get over 80 high-ticket clients with a YouTube channel of less than 200 subscribers, with no ad spend, no cold calling, no cold email, no cold DMs, no spamming. Why? Because business, it's not a numbers game. Sure, numbers matter, but ultimately it's a relationship nurturing process. We do business with people who connect, relate, and trust. And from my experience of my students and other people that I know, podcasting is probably the single best way online to build a platform we can connect heart to heart to the exact ideal prospect audience. For example, me and you, we didn't know each other. You came on my podcast, you opened your heart, you shared your story. I get to know what a beautiful human being you are. When you build that connection with someone, at that time, there's no need for you to pitch, to sell, or as I like to say in a cheesy and funny way, there's no need for you to seduce or kidnap someone to do business with them. It's a natural, automatic, organic progression. For example, hey, what do you do, Endre? I'm the doctor of self-worth. I help people get their self-confidence back, the self-esteem and all that, the self-worth. Hey, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Can you help me? Sure. Let's set up a time to talk. I personally wish I had met you, Andre, 4 years ago when I was in a very low self-esteem. You know, I wish I had met you back then, but it's okay. So the point is, podcasting is an incredibly powerful medium and platform to share your story, to display your expertise so that you can connect heart to heart with exact ideal audience. And this is what I've been doing. This is what I've been teaching in my academy to my students. And it's been transformational both for me and my students for the last 2.5 years.
Wow. I love this because probably this is what I have been doing. And probably I would have shortened the journey if I knew you.
Same for me
But
too.
I did take some notes, mental notes. I wanted to recap what Payman said to us here is simplicity. Just doing it. Probably you need to show up consistently. I mean, come on, you're jumping on Zoom meetings anyway, and all the change that you're gonna do, you'll probably need to click record and have someone ready, hopefully with not do much background noise to launch your episodes. And probably he has even more easy tools for you to get that message out. Because think about it like this: if you launch this podcast of yours, it will always sound like and feel like a small TV channel. People start to follow you. That's what happens these days. People are not watching mainstream media anymore because it's toxic. Help us with more with that monetization, because that I haven't done much of that.
Absolutely. First of all, I want to say that if you want to launch just a podcast, you don't need me. Just get a microphone from Amazon and you're good to go. But now, if you want to launch a podcast for business, that's a different story. We need to do it in a very strategic way. You know, in business, the most important thing to have to be successful is to have clarity, to be very clear on what is your offer, who's your ideal client. One of the number one mistakes I heard people of the last, especially coaches, I work mostly with coaches of the last 3.5, 4 years, is that, and it's not really a mistake, they come from a good intention. They want to help everyone with all of the issues. I want to help you with your money, with your mindset, with your fitness, with your psychology, with your car, with your dog, with everything, you know? But that's something that only God can do. Me and you, as much as we want it, Andrew, we're not God. So we need to focus on one very specific person with one very specific pain point. So this is what is the single most important aspect of building a successful podcast for business, at least, is to have clarity as to what is your goal with your podcast, what is the number one pain point you're trying to solve, and for who. Once you have that, then identify where is that person hanging out, and just reaching out to them. Once you do that, then your podcast has everything you need to do to know to be successful and to become an unstoppable lead generation machine for you. Not only a lead generation machine, but also a platform to elevate you as to boost your credibility, your and to skyrocket your visibility and all that. Because again, you're building your own TV channel, TV station, almost in a way. So that's a way to do it. Now, what was your question again?
Well, this is amazing. I realized that by mistake or by luck, I was probably doing the right thing. I realized at one point, well, a podcast will not serve me or serve my audience. I realized, well, if I'm around lack of confidence, lack of self-worth, probably I need to have a podcast and guests who have relevant stories to lack of self-worth, lack of confidence, breakthroughs, and how they've been able to change their life, contribute, and live an authentic life. So I think I realized this, and you put it so eloquently, probably about episode 30 in my series, which then I became more and more aware of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. But yeah, you could straighten this out, and if you want to explain it much better, just tell us.
So, as I said, for me, what's going to allow you, what's going to be a make or break for your podcast, for your business podcast to be successful, is how much clarity you have. The more clarity you have, the more your message is going to be magnetic, as opposed to be just another background marketing noise going to be ignored and the sea of noise that we hear all the time online. So the more clarity you have, the more clear you are as to what is the number one pain point trying to solve for what specific person and where are they hanging out, then the higher your chances for you to attract, connect, heart to heart with exactly the audience, and by doing so, you'll be able to monetize your podcast. So you said something very powerful. As coaches, we all get into multiple Zoom calls a day. I get onto, at least when I was in Canada, I'm from Canada now, I'm in Asia. When I was in Canada, I was getting on calls, I would say, from 9 o'clock in the morning, especially during the pandemic, because Canada was one of the strictest countries in terms of restrictions. Plus, half the year you're frozen, so not much you can do. I don't watch TV, so I had to find something to do to occupy my mind. So, and I love talking. So I got on calls with people on Zoom from 9 o'clock in the morning till literally 9 at night. I was literally falling asleep on my desk. Seriously. So I was getting onto 8, 9, 10 calls a day. So, and then I said, wait a second, why not just press a button and record those? So by doing those, I was recording 2, 3, 4 podcasts a day. My podcasts are about an hour on average. So within a year, I reached 100 episodes. And that's why now I'm at over 300 episodes in 3 years. And I took 6 months off from the podcast completely. So again, once you have that clarity, and this is what I'm going to show inside the inside the challenge, going to deep dive into that to have clarity. We're going to brainstorm as to what is your gift, what is your zone of genius, what pain point have you overcome? Because when someone wants to hire a coach, most people are not looking to work with billionaires. Sure, it would be nice to work with a billionaire, but billionaires are completely disconnected from our reality. They have a different set of problems they're facing. They want someone that is 1, 2, 3, or at most 4 steps ahead of them, that understand them, that's been in their shoes recently, and most importantly, someone that is accessible. Good luck trying to get in with a billionaire unless you are yourself a billionaire, unless you pay him a crap ton of money. But this is why people want to hire a coach, someone that is accessible, and someone that is just 1, 2, 3, or at most 4 steps ahead of them. So ask yourself, what is something that you yourself have overcome that was a major issue, a major challenge in your life, that now that you've overcome this, you've learned the lessons, that people would be willing and ready to pay you to help them. And that's what your podcast is going to be about. If you address that on your podcast, and of course, the podcast is one part of your business. You need to have an offer, high ticket offer. This is mostly for a podcast even though a podcast would help any business, any entrepreneurs, it would be most beneficial for those of us that have a high ticket offer. Because when you're selling, let's say, something like this, you can just go online for $10, you buy it, you don't need to speak to someone. But when you're trying to work with someone who's going to, for example, save your marriage, or help you to get leads, or for you overcome the lack of mental beliefs or low self-esteem, and you're charging, say, good amount of money, say $2, $3, $5, $10, $20,000, they need to talk to someone. And in order for them to do that, they need to build that trust, that rapport, to get to know you, to make sure that, hey, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. They're good. And to do that, this is how your podcast is going to be the bridge to do that, because your podcast will allow you to, again, share your story, allowing them to get to know you, display your expertise, showing to them, hey, I can do the work, I've done it, I'm capable, I'm competent. And number 3, once you have done that, because they get to know you, because they've been reassured that you can do the work, that's when the gap comes together, because that's when you gain their trust, their rapport, and that's when they will reach out to you. Because when someone listens to a podcast, it's for 2 reasons. One, sure, they're interested in your topic, but most importantly, they like you. They like your personality, your sense of humor. They can relate with you. They can resonate with the message. They can identify with you, and so on and so forth. So this is why a podcast or a YouTube channel, when done properly, with a proper clarity and foundation, is phenomenal for a business. It's phenomenal. It's transformational. And this is why I'm teaching in my 5-day challenge next week, and also inside my academy. But yeah.
This is perfect. I think you guys, if you're listening to us and you're thinking, or you've been wondering about having your own podcast, that probably you need to be very clear about who you want to help, because that podcast should be set up for that kind of person. But you're so lucky, because you got Payman here, and he is going to have these free 5-day challenge, as far as I understand, and you will have probably all the details and the links under the video. Now, when is this starting, and what time zone, so people really knows?
Great question. So the podcast, sorry, not the podcast, the 5-day podcast lead challenge is kicking off on Monday, the 22nd of January at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And the US, 5 p.m. Pacific time. For those of you in Europe, I know it's not the best time. It's going to be 1 or 2 a.m. for you guys, but there is replays. And for those of us in this part of the world, in Asia, Pacific, Australia, it's going to be 12 noon on the next day. Even for you guys in Europe, is the next day, the 23rd, from Tuesday the 23rd to Saturday the 27th. In Sydney, Australia, it's going to be 12 noon. In Hong Kong, is going to be 9 a.m. And for me here in Vietnam, is going to be 8 o'clock in the morning. I have all the information on my website. The website is podcastleadschallenge.com. Podcast leads with an S, challenge.com. You have all the details, the time zones, the information. And again, it's a free 5-day challenge. It's my way of giving back because life has been very good for me. Podcasting has been very good. And I love helping, inspiring, empowering. This is my way of inspiring, empowering, and opening the eyes of all these wonderful people doing great things to how podcasting can be phenomenal. A lot of people are not even aware of how transformational podcast can be. I was one of them. I didn't know. I've been listening to podcasts since 2007 when they first started. But for business, I only started understanding the tremendous power of it only 4 years ago. And that says I need to be on it. So now my mission is to share that knowledge, that wisdom, that gift with others so that they can also. My motto when I start my podcast, and it's still the same for my business and everything I do, is to showcase purposeful, heart-centered entrepreneurs with beautiful hearts and powerful messages to win. That's what I'm about. Because when you came on my podcast, for example, recently, Endre, when you shared your incredible, inspiring, empowering, goosebump-inducing story, if your story can inspire just one person listening to it, and that person gets to get back the self-worth, self-confidence, or just believe in himself or whatever, and that person goes on to change their life, and then he or she goes on to inspire another, and so on and so forth, then together we can create a ripple effect around the world that's going to change the frequency, the vibration, and direction of this planet toward a more positive direction. And God knows that at this time, this is what our world, our planet needs more than ever. So this is my way of, and my humble way, to make the world a more positive place to be.
Well, you know what? I think that would be the last line here because I want people to listen to all of this information. Thanks very much. And obviously, you have the link under the video. Don't wait. Jump in. If you can't make each of these sessions, then you will have a recording. I mean, this is it. This is the blueprint I did not have. Probably, Lawrence. Yeah, you haven't had that Payman. So yeah, let's share it with others. And thanks very much for.
You're welcome. So the best way to connect with them either on the website, or if you want, you can add either my LinkedIn profile link or my Facebook link on the show notes. I can send them to you and they can reach out to me, and I'd be happy to welcome them in the channel next week, or even get on a call with me to brainstorm and show them how they can use podcasting for their business to get leads on demand so they can grow their business in an organic way.
Watch under the video. The links are right there. Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Bye.
brother. Pleasure's all mine. Take care.